Level 1, the overweight student. Right now you finished dead last in the gym class mile. In 15 years, you'll win a 100-mile race in the mountains. You're 15 and 240 pounds, and today is mile day. By the time you stagger across the line, everyone else finished 10 minutes ago. Your time is 17 minutes, dead last. Even Kevin, who has a heart murmur and a doctor's note, walked it and beat you. Mr. Dabrowski doesn't even time you. He writes down a guess. Brooke from third period is watching, and you decided, with one Rocky Montage's research, that today she'd see a different guy. She does. Marcus, the football star who's bullied you since freshman year, looks at you, soaked and wheezing, and says it loud enough for her to hear. They give you a medal for that? Participation, right? Hey, for a guy your size, just finishing is basically a marathon. The class laughs. Brooke laughs. Marcus turns to her. Still good for tonight? She climbs into his lifted truck. You wave. She does not wave back. 15 years from now, that same Marcus, knees shot in glory days long gone, will say your name like it's worth money and ask you for a favor. But tonight you walk to the speedway for the food you always get, and for the first time you walk right past it. Soon you'll be running past it at 5 in the morning. And not long after, you'll sign up for your first ultramarathon. Level 2, the beginner runner. You run at 5 a.m. now, not because you're disciplined. Because 5 a.m. is the only hour the entire town is asleep, and nobody can see a beanbag chair jogging down Maple Street. The walk past the speedway became a habit, and the habit became an app. Couch to 5K, free, a robot British woman who tells you to run for 60 seconds, then walk for 90. Week 1, day 1. You can't finish the 60. You make it about 40 before your lungs file a formal complaint, and you walk the rest pretending it was the plan all along. A car turns onto the street, headlights swinging, and you dive behind the dumpster outside the Walgreens like you're dodging a sniper. You are convinced they're filming you. They are not. They're a guy named Greg going to his shift at the plant. Nobody is watching anybody at 5 a.m. That's the entire point of 5 a.m. You quit the Speedway taquitos, the ones rotating under the heat lamp since the second Bush administration, and switched to Costco protein bars that taste like a candle apologizing. Then you buy the shoes. Gray Nikes from the outlet mall, the one wedged between a Bath and Body Works and a pretzel place. $34 marked down from $80. 3 weeks of skipping the vending machine to afford them. You are completely convinced the shoes are the secret, that the problem was never your body. It was the $11 Walmart sneakers, and these will fix everything. They fix nothing. You go out way too fast the first morning, like every beginner does, and you earn shin splints that bark for a week. A retiree power walking the same loop sees your face and calls out, "Looking strong, big guy." You know exactly what that is. That's the voice people use on a dog with 3 legs and a good attitude. And something in you uses it. Not anger exactly. Something colder and more useful. You slow down. You stop trying to run like Marcus and just try to finish the 60 seconds. And that morning, on the flat loop past the closed Blockbuster nobody's torn down, you finish it. 60 seconds, unbroken, for the first time. It's nothing. It's everything. It's the first promise your body has ever kept to you. You start counting. 60 seconds becomes 2 minutes. 2 minutes becomes a quarter mile without walking. The robot woman graduates you to longer intervals, and you graduate yourself out of the dumpster reflex, because somewhere in there you stop caring if Greg sees you. Let him. The morning you run a full mile without stopping, you check the cheap Casio you bought to match the shoes. 11 minutes, 40 seconds. 6 minutes faster than the day you finished dead last in gym, soaked and wheezing while Marcus laughed. Unbroken though, the whole mile, no walking. You don't know it yet, sweat freezing on your neck behind a dead video store. But the slow ones who refuse to stop are the ones who go the furthest in the end, further than the fast kids will ever have the legs to follow. You get home and look up the local running club. The first meet is Tuesday. You almost don't go. Level 3, the running club member. You show up Tuesday in your 34 Nikes, and everyone else is standing on $200 of Hoka and carbon plate. You can read the price of a shoe now just by looking at it. Nobody asked you to learn this. It happened anyway, like a curse. They sort themselves into pace groups without saying a word, the way wolves know rank without a meeting. You join the slowest one. You get dropped inside the first half mile anyway. Nobody's even cruel about it. That's somehow worse. They just drift away mid-sentence, mid-laugh, and the gap opens. And you're alone again, except now you're alone inside a group, which is a very specific humiliation they have not invented a word for yet. You learn things nobody warns you about. You learn what a cotton Hanes shirt does to a man's nipples over 6 miles. You learn this the hard way, bleeding through. And a 60-year-old guy named Del hands you a single Band-Aid in the Panera parking lot like a medic in a war movie. You learn there's a guy named Brad in every club who says Zone 2, like he personally invented oxygen, and who will tell you his resting heart rate before he tells you his last name. And you learn that everyone has a Garmin Forerunner and uploads every run to Strava, where they title it Easy Shakeout. You have a Casio F91W, the watch from the terrorism documentaries. You log nothing. You just run. The third week, a woman named Hannah doubles back for you. She runs mid-pack, fast enough to belong, and she peels off the front and circles back to where you're dying on a hill behind the reservoir. She doesn't coach you. She doesn't say, "You got this." She just falls into your pace and starts talking about the worst shoe she ever bought. A Skechers situation she refuses to elaborate on, about a dog on her street, and talks the whole climb, and by the time you notice you've crested the hill, you've already crested the hill. You find out later she does it on purpose, doubles back for the dropped ones. Most people won't slow down to save you. She runs slower so you don't drown. Then the coach times you in a tempo workout. Sustained, ugly, the kind where your body tries to renegotiate the deal. You hold the pace. You hold it past where the fast kids start folding, and you're still holding it when he clicks his watch and goes quiet a second too long. "You've got a diesel engine," he says finally. "The naturals flame out. Race gets long, they fold. You don't fold." He's still staring at the watch. "Guys like you don't win 5Ks, kid. You win the long stuff, the really long stuff. The races Brad over there will never have the stomach to even start. You don't fully buy it. 6 months ago, you couldn't run a quarter mile without walking. And he's talking about you winning something, but it lands somewhere and stays." After the run, Hannah pulls up the club's race sheet on her phone. A local 5K, 6 weeks out. She types your name in, then hers, right under it. First time your name's been on a list of runners on purpose. Not pinned to a gym wall as a warning. Chosen. By the door hangs a board of old finisher medals. You stare at one too long. Marcus's word floats back. Participation. 6 weeks. You decide you're going to earn one that doesn't feel like that. Level 4, the 5K finisher. Race morning, and you've made every mistake before the gun even goes off. You drank too much water, so the porta-potty line is 40 people deep and moving at the speed of the BMV. You safety pin your bib crooked and repin it twice. And then the rookie sin, the one every first-timer commits exactly once. You line up near the front with the lean people, the ones who look like greyhounds wearing Garmins. The gun goes. They trample you. 200 yards in, you're getting passed on both sides, and you do the second beginner thing, the unforgivable one. You go with them. Way too fast. You bank a pace you have no business holding because the adrenaline gets in your ear and swears today's the day you're secretly fast. Mile 2 sends the invoice. Your legs turn to wet cement. And then the sound you will hear in nightmares forever. Tiny Velcro sneakers slapping pavement, and a 7-year-old dressed as a dinosaur passes you on the left. His dad jogs next to him filming it. You are, briefly, content for that man's whole family. You want to lie down in the grass by the Chick-fil-A and let the race finish without you. Then Hannah blows past in her own race, sees you, and yells one thing over her shoulder. You're split. Just the number and a beat later. Reel in the dinosaur. It's enough. You hang on to it like a railing. You reel in the dinosaur over the last half mile. You pass the kid. His dad stops filming. And then the course bends and there it is, the finish chute, the inflatable arch, the clock, the noise. Something happens in your chest that has nothing to do with the kid or the time. You cross. 24:58. Under 25 minutes. A volunteer you've never met loops a medal over your head, and it lands against your sternum with a small cold weight. And for 1 second, the entire gym wall from when you were 15 just dissolves. It's a participation medal. Everyone gets one, including the dinosaur. Marcus was right about that part. He was dead wrong about what it weighs. You're still standing there grinning like an idiot when you wander over to the results board. Age group winners, printed and taped to a folding sign. First in your bracket is a name you know, Marcus. He blew out his football knee in his second season at Ohio State, and somewhere in the rehab he found running. And now he's 30 feet away in a singlet that says Rampage, some pre-workout that tastes like blue, with 2 guys filming him on gimbals. He's doing a finish line interview. With himself. He looks right at you. Nothing. He doesn't recognize you. You've dropped 51 pounds since the gym wall. You're not the kid he humiliated anymore. You're just some guy who finished mid-pack. That night, the club reposts his interview. You watch it on your phone, medal still on the kitchen counter where you can see it. Anybody can do a 5K, Marcus says, towel off, Rampage bottle angled at the lens. Real runners go the distance. The marathon's the only number that actually counts. You should turn it off. You don't. You watch it twice. Next morning, before the 5 a.m. alarm even goes off, you're awake, laptop open, and you find the city marathon, 26.2 miles. Registration open, $110 you don't really have. You tell yourself it's not about him. You click register anyway. Level 5, the marathon runner. The marathon takes your Sundays first, then everything orbiting the Sundays. You learn that a long run isn't a workout, it's an appointment your whole week bends around. You learn carb loading, which sounds like a hall pass and feels like a chore by the third bowl of plain Barilla. You learn that toenails go black, fall off, and grow back wrong, and runners mention it the way other people mention a cold front. And you slowly become the worst kind of person. The kind who tells a coworker their marathon time before they're asked. The kind with a 26.2 sticker on a Corolla. You feared this man your whole life. You are now him, and you've never been happier. You learn the loneliness of mile 16, 6 a.m., alone on a bike path behind a Menards, 10 miles to go. You don't stop. That's the whole thing about you. You don't have a word for it yet. Race day. The first 20 miles go better than they have any right to. Then mile 20 introduces you to the wall, which is not a metaphor. Your legs stop taking your calls. Your pace drives off a cliff. Your eyes sting in a way that isn't sweat. And you choke down a Moatin gel that costs $4 and goes down like a warm glow stick. Then you run again. The only way back to the parking lot is through the finish line, and nobody's coming to carry you. 3 hours, 31 minutes. You cross. Hannah's at the line with a foil blanket and a poster board with your name in Sharpie. She ran her own race that morning. Then stood 2 hours in the cold waiting for you. She wraps the blanket around you, and you're shaking and laughing and can't fully stand, and it's the best day of your life. Somewhere in those training months, you both quit pretending this was only about running. Neither of you had said the word yet. You both knew it was idling in the driveway. You won nothing, qualified for nothing. You also passed 40 people in the last 10K while they came apart, holding the same pace the whole way. Diesel engine. The coach's words coming true on a real course in public exactly like he called it. The after-parties in a Marriott ballroom that smells like industrial carpet and Bengay. Marcus is there. Of course he is. Rampage singlet, glowing, holding court, telling the room about his first marathon, which he jogged in 5 hours with a camera guy on a bike. He didn't race anything. He filmed a costume, and then he finds Hannah. Here's the part you'll own for years. You don't move. You stand by the chafing dishes with a paper plate of warm cantaloupe, and you never cross the room. You never say the word either. You leave the silence wide open, and Marcus strolls right into it, because that's what guys like Marcus do with a silence. You watch him turn on the charm that costs him nothing, because everything always cost him nothing. You watch her laugh, not the way she laughs on a hill when she's saving you. A different laugh. He leaves with her. Same move, different girl, 10 years later. Except this time it isn't only him. It's the part of you that still didn't believe you were allowed to want her out loud. You drop the plate in the trash and drive home, and that night you don't walk to any speedway. You lace up the gray Nikes held together with athletic tape now, and run until the sky goes gray, then pink, and somewhere in those silent miles something settles, cold and clear. You can't out-sprint a body like Marcus's. You never could. So you'll go where his body can't follow, further than he'd ever be willing to hurt. You start reading about what's past the marathon. There's always something past the marathon. Level 6, the elite marathoner. It takes 2 years and a number that sounds like nothing until you live it. 90 miles a week. Every week. In the rain, in the dark, on the legs you already used up yesterday. You drop your marathon from 3:31 to 2:38. You qualify for Boston. And you find the cruelest hallway in the sport, the one nobody posts about, the place where you're finally genuinely fast, and it still isn't fast enough to get a single dollar. You run a marathon pace that would win the road race in any town in America. You finish 41st. The 30 ahead of you do this for a living. The ones behind you are dentists and teachers back at work Monday. You're stuck in the middle, too good to quit, not good enough to cash a check. Racing in vaporflies you bought on a Klarna payment plan like a grown man financing one shoe at a time. Boston, mile 20, Heartbreak Hill. And there, breathing hard beside you, is Marcus. He's on a brand's charity entry, and he is filming himself. Phone out mid-race, narrating his own grit. This is where it gets real, fam. This is the wall. We don't stop when we're tired. We stop when we're done. Then he surges, because the camera's rolling, because the surge looks good on the gimbal. You let him go. There's a voice in your head now, and it isn't yours, it's the coach's from the clubhouse years back. Naturals flame out. Don't chase him. Save it for the distance he'll never have the stomach to run. So you save it. You hold your pace up the hill while Marcus disappears ahead to perform for his phone. And at mile 23, you find him again. He's walking. Hands on his knees, doubled over on the curb on Commonwealth Avenue, the camera nowhere in sight. It's the exact pose. The one you wore at 15, bent over your knees in the gym class mile, soaked and dead last, while he stood at the finish and laughed. You don't say anything. You don't even slow down. You pass him the way water passes a rock, and you run 2:38. He's out here on a charity bib, running for the camera and not the clock, and it shows. He walks it in hours later and posts a video that night about his humbling, grateful day. He stopped when he got tired. You watched it happen. The internet loves the humbling, grateful video. It does big numbers. Yours does nothing because there's no video of you. There never is. That's the part that chews on you the whole drive home. You beat his body. You beat it clean at the most famous finish line in the sport. And he still went viral, and you still drove your own Corolla home, and you still couldn't make rent with the result. The market loves Marcus. The sport respects you. And respect doesn't pay rent yet. Then, in the finish corral, a man hands you a card. Mid-tier shoe brand. Not the giant with the swoosh the kind serious runners know and casual fans have never heard of. He saw your splits, not your follower count. He says one sentence you'll turn over in your head for years. We don't sponsor the fastest guy in the race, he says. We sponsor the guy who's still here in 5 years. It's almost never the same guy. You hold the card the whole walk back to the car. You don't know it yet, but the man just told you exactly how this ends and exactly what it's going to cost you to get there. Level 7, the sponsored athlete. The deal is $3,200 a month, plus shoes, plus travel. Barely enough to live on, exactly enough to make you quit your job at 28 and find out who you are with nothing left but running. You're terrified the day you give notice at the insurance office. You're also gone the next week on a Delta flight, chasing a start line overseas. Here's what nobody tells you about seeing the world as a sponsored runner. You don't see it. You see Tokyo through a hotel window at 5 a.m. You see Berlin from inside a start corral. You see Valencia from the bus back to the airport. You're either racing, recovering, or filming yourself doing one of the two. Because the filming starts quietly. A clause here, a content expectation there. Post your splits. Tag the brand. Smile through the plantar fasciitis stabbing your heel. And slowly, without one moment you could ever point to, you start picking races because they film well instead of because they fit your legs. A scenic point-to-point with a mountain backdrop beats the flat, ugly course where you'd run a personal best. You don't notice you're doing it. That's how it gets you not in one decision, in 100 tiny ones, until the map of your career is drawn by a camera instead of a coach. Then you see Marcus again, on a panel. At a marathon expo, the two of you side by side at a folding table with mics, both billed as athletes, between a booth selling compression socks and a booth selling CBD. He's there on follower count. You're there on a 238. He's got triple your audience and a third of your engine. And he's still selling Rampage, which now comes in a flavor called Arctic Surge. Halfway through, in front of the whole crowd, he leans into his mic and says the thing he said his entire life, the thing he said the day you finished dead last in the gym class mile at 15. End of the day running simple, Marcus says. It's about showing up. The room nods. You lean into your mic. Showing up is level 1, you say. You should try level 2 sometime. The room laughs. Marcus laughs too, half a second late, the way a man laughs when he's just been hit and is still deciding whether it counts as a joke. Then his face does something. He looks at you, really looks, and you watch 15 years rearrange behind his eyes. He finally recognizes you. The participation medal, returned with interest, on his stage into his own microphone. You wait your whole life for a moment like that. It lasts about 4 seconds and tastes like almost nothing, because here's what the wind doesn't fix. Your knee has started talking. A dull ache on every downhill, a little louder each month. You schedule an MRI at a strip mall imaging place. You cancel it the morning of, you're afraid of the word a doctor might use. And then, one morning, on a training run through a city whose name you've already forgotten, no camera, no brand, no split to post, the sun comes up over a river, and your legs find a rhythm and you feel it. The exact thing from the 11 p.m. walk past the speedway at 15. The reason, still down there under all of it, you still love this. That's the trap. It's also the only thing keeping you upright. And under the love, something's pulling you toward the edge of the map, 50 miles, 100. The distances where the buckle you were promised actually lives. That night you email an ultra race director. The knee is not going to like this plan. Level 8, the ultrarunner. The first thing you notice at your first 50-miler is the folding table. Boiled potatoes in a bowl of salt, flat Coke in Dixie cups, quartered PB&Js going soft in the sun, pickle juice in a mason jar, communal. No inflatable arches out here, no sponsor banners, no phones held up to capture a finish. The aid station looks like a Lutheran church potluck run by people who haven't slept since Thursday. These are runners who would rather die than post a split. The whole anti-Marcus world hidden at the edge of the map, exactly where you came looking. These people, you slowly understand, voluntarily gave up their toenails, as a group, like a religion. And you have never felt more at home. You learn the surreal math of the ultra. At mile 41, you see a deer standing in the trail and slow down so you don't spook it. And it turns out to be a bush. You throw up behind an aid station and eat a quesadilla 90 seconds later, and both are completely normal. A pacer you met that morning runs beside you through the dark and talks you out of a hole, the way Hannah once talked you up a hill, and you only ever have to solve one problem: get to the next table. Never the finish, just the next bowl of potatoes. You spend a season collecting 50s, then a 60, then 100K, each one teaching your body how to keep going long after it asks to stop. And then comes the 100-miler. At mile 78, your quad seizes into a fist of stone, and you sit down in a camp chair, and somebody drapes a blanket over your shoulders, and you take it. You drop. You quit. The first thing you've quit since the gym class mile at 15, when your legs gave out and you walked the rest of it in front of the whole class. It guts you in a way Marcus never managed in all those years. He could humiliate you. He could take the girl twice, but he could never make you sit down in a chair. You did that yourself at mile 78, under a stranger's blanket, a paper cup of flat Coke going warm in your hand. You drive home not speaking. You go back the next year. Same course. Same chair waiting at mile 78, you're sure of it. You run straight past it. Through the dark, through the deer that are bushes, through the stomach that quits before the legs do. You run through one sunrise and toward a second. 22 hours after the start, you cross a line scratched in the dirt that almost nobody is watching. They don't give you a medal. They give you a belt buckle. Heavy, ugly, beautiful. And there it is, the thing Marcus's word could never survive. You cannot fake your way to mile 100. No follower count, no charity bib, no Arctic surge, no camera surge carries you the last 22 miles in the dark. You either go or you sit in the chair. The buckle is the one thing he was never going to be able to hand himself. You think about Marcus exactly once that night. At the finish, the buckle cold in your fist. Then never again. Your phone has a notification you don't open. He's pivoted to some new thing. Ice baths or a podcast. The running content quietly deleted. His irrelevance doesn't even sting. It's just weather now. A week later, a race director calls. The big one. 100-mile mountain championship, the kind that makes or ends a career, sometimes both by sunrise. Your knee already has a name for what's wrong with it. Your surgeon's word, the one you finally let him say out loud. You say yes anyway. Level 9, the ultramarathon champion. You win it at mile 94, though you don't know it yet. The young ones, the fast ones, the naturals with the bodies that were handed to them at birth, they're all behind you now. Walked to pieces somewhere up in the pines, parked in the same chairs you taught yourself to run past. You're not faster than they are. You never were. You just don't fold. The coach saw it on a tempo run when you were a fat kid who just learned to finish a mile. Diesel engine. Last man standing. You cross the line as the champion of the hardest 100 miles on the continent. And it's the last race you'll ever run. The knee that started whispering at mile 20 Boston is screaming now. 2 surgeries. The second one, the surgeon quits using the word fix and starts using the word manage. You can run 100 miles across a mountain range. You can't get down your own stairs the next morning without the rail. The thing that saved you from the kid on the gym wall is the same thing taking your legs. Both true. Nobody warns you they can be true at the same time. You see Marcus one more time. A sponsor event, months later. He's faded 3 fitness pivots past relevant, knees long gone from the football he peaked at. Fresh off a DNF at some comeback marathon he announced way too loudly on a podcast nobody downloads. He's working the room, looking for something. He finds you. And he says your name, your actual name, with respect, for the first time in your life, and asks if you'd put in a word with the race director. He needs the introduction. He needs you. You look at him a second. The laughing, the roast, the lifted truck. Brooke, Hannah. Sure, you say. I'll mention you. And you do. Quietly. Then you forget about it, because it cost you nothing, because everything always cost you everything, and now this cost nothing at all. The fat kid he handed a participation medal to gets to decide whether Marcus is in the room. You decide yes, and then you stop thinking about him. That's the whole revenge. There was never going to be a better one. You retire. You coach now. One afternoon you drive out to the high school. The track's still there. The gym wall where Mr. Dabrowski posted the mile times is still there. And there's a kid running the timed mile dead last heavy, walking, finishing long after everyone else has packed up, while some other Marcus by the fence laughs with his buddies. You open your trunk. The gray Nikes are in there. $34, 15 years old, soles separated, held together with tape older than the kid. You don't hand them to him. You put them on yourself. You step onto the track and fall in beside him at his pace, his slow, gasping, dead last pace, and you start talking. About the worst shoe you ever bought. About nothing. You talk him the whole way around so he doesn't notice how much track is left. Exactly the way Hannah once talked you up a hill. He finishes the mile. He's still breathing hard when you tell him the only thing worth telling him. Fast guys flame out, you say. Guys built like us, we win the long stuff. Start at 5 a.m. Nobody's watching at 5 a.m. The kid nods like he doesn't believe you. You didn't either. Nobody claps. Nobody needs to. If you like this story, share and subscribe for more.